Lockdown, a time of loneliness, a time of seclusion, a time of insecurity, a time of darkness. But let's peep into the history of the kingdom of God. Lockdown is a practice initiated since the time of God's creation. In fact, God locked up Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden so that they may enjoy His goodness forever. But let's have a glance on few lockdowns and how God protected the people. The story of Noah's lockdown. There was a great flood during the time of Noah, and in despair, God sent a heavy flood to destroy all evil. But He found Noah, a righteous man, and saved him and his family in a huge ark. Not only Noah, he also rescued many animals and birds in this wooden ark. Noah spent 150 days in this lockdown in the ark of God. How beautifully God protected Noah and others in the ark just because he was a righteous man. Let's see about the story of Elijah's lockdown. Elijah was a man of God's spirit and truth. Many God's people were brutally killed by King Ahab and Queen Jezebel at his time. Elijah too was not spared by them. Elijah escaped into the mountains to shield himself from these cruel people. He had to stay away from his people and all comforts. He had to spend many days without food and water. But our good God sent raven to feed him with bread and also a spring nearby to quench his thirst. How marvelously God provided Elijah the strength just because he was a man of God's spirit and truth. Now we will see the lockdown of David. David was a young shepherd of utter faith in God. However, he too had his own enemies. He was greatly interested in music, often playing the harp. King Saul, who was jealous of David, was keen to kill him, the first enemy. The surrounding neighbor kings who eyed on his victories and achievements. His own son Absalom, who was greedy to have his father's throne. David also had his periodic lockdowns in the wilderness, praying to God for comfort. But God raised him as a king from being a shepherd boy just because he had faith in God. The King of Kings too had his lockdown. As a tender infant in the hands of Mother Mary and Joseph, Jesus too had his lockdown. The soldiers of Herod were in search of the baby to kill him when he was just an infant. But the gift of salvation was miraculously protected in every hour of trials and tribulations. Before beginning his ministry, Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness to strengthen himself from the worldly comforts of food, the testing times, and the desire of luxuries. But the Prince of Peace had his own way and triumphed the devilish lockdown. Children, the story of lockdown may be depressing and discouraging, But there is a way to come out of this gloomy picture. Why not we too wear the armor which our heroes have worn and become the armors of God? Like Mother Mary and Saint Joseph, let us crown ourselves with the helmet of salvation. Like Noah, let us tighten ourselves with the breastplate of righteousness. Like Elijah, let us fasten our belt of truth. Like Elijah, let us raise our sword of spirit. Like David, let us guard ourselves with the shield of faith. Like our King, let us walk with the shoes of peace. So why not gear ourselves as armor of God and overcome this lockdown?